Hello and welcome to the Chillness Room. This is Kyra Schaefer, and we are on episode 18. I have this in my parking lot notes, and it's kind of like the Is It Cake version of Is It Cake version of an episode. But really, it's chemical or mystical. Is our intuition chemical or mystical? Where does it come from? And I have studied the brain and chemicals and how everything works, and moving into and having been in perimenopause for a year, which has been very difficult. I have found that chemicals kind of play a big important role in how everything works together. So the first side is, and we're just going to go through it, just kind of like I said, some parking lot thoughts of ideas. And the first one is intuition as pattern recognition. So, depending on how our brains are wired, we can be more keenly aware of how things were and then kind of move forward in our mind and our imagination and our feelings into the future. And we start to future pace possibilities based on what we've already experienced or what we've witnessed other people experiencing. Since our brain is wired for safety, its job essentially is to help us to make determinations and choices based off of the information that it's collected all along the way. So we have stored memories, we've got subtle cues that we don't consciously notice, and then that pattern recognition that's kind of happening underneath it all. What happens when we're right? We've seen all those things, we've collected the data, and then we make some big leaps in assumptions as possibilities for the future. Again, not based on nothing, that we actually can sense that, oh, wait a minute, this has happened and that kind of thing. But sometimes we don't connect those dots and say, oh, I'm logically putting this together. We just kind of feel it or sense it. And then we go, okay, well, this thing is going to happen. All right. And then the thing happens. And we're like, what? That's amazing. We're so awesome. And we are awesome, especially if we have this function that's a little bit more keenly attuned. And depending on how we were raised and previous trauma and, always looking for where the shoe's going to drop and all that kind of stuff, if we're kind of naturally wired that way, yeah, it does. It feels almost mystical in a way because we're like, wow, I cannot believe that that actually happened, but yet I always knew it was going to. But it's just that you have this keen awareness. So that's one part of it. The other part that happens there is confirmation bias. If this happens enough times, then we begin to confirm that what we believe will happen will happen. And that can be a good thing or it can be a self-fulfilling prophecy, whether it's a good side or a negative side. So in that case, it's not cake. It's just how the brain functions. And that's wonderful. We need to use that as our skill set so that we can be informed. But if we get too far down that confirmation bias, then it can be that we live in this moment where we're always concerned and in fear or worried about the future. Or we can use it to our advantage and say, yes, I know I've seen these things before, but I'm curious about how it might turn out differently in the future. That's a clearer, cleaner, more aligned to positivity mindset than, the alternative. Another great one. So this is the other part of us, right? We get those gut feelings. So the body is a part of the brain, and we already know that. The gut and brain are connected by the vagus nerve, and the gut has millions of neurons, and it's sometimes called the second brain because we feel this sense and we feel it in our gut. This can be, for me, even recently, up up until just a few weeks ago, I just felt this overwhelming feeling in my gut. It did. It started in my gut and it just like whooshed through me. And it was just a feeling of no, no, that's not what I want to do. And or that's not right for me to do. That was the even better. It's not I don't want to do it. It was a this isn't right for me to do. And sometimes when we get this whooshing feeling or we get this knowing feeling and it's in the pit of our stomach and we're like, wait a minute, what is this? I think that there is some truth to this being tied to the brain, and it might be tied to some of that pattern recognition for sure. And I can't really fully explain that one myself because it's so clear in that moment. And sometimes it could be just a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn situation, which I'm super excited to get into those for in future podcast episodes. But there's so much neurology that we have there that could be linking up, but there might be other things too. So I don't know if it's not a cake or if it is a little bit of a cake situation. So that kind of feeling when somebody comes to you with a thought or idea, or you have a big choice to make, or something's happening, I think it's always a good idea to check in. And to me, it's like, even if you're not getting that big no or that big yes, to just go, if you're kind of in that neutral place, just go inside and say, how does my gut feel about this? So you might feel a tightening in the stomach. You could feel a sudden calmness or openness or relaxedness, or it could be a wave of unease, kind of what I described. So whatever that is for you, knowing what it is important. And a way to practice that, by the way, is to do it by things and with things that don't matter in the big sense, so that when the big things come along, you're much more attuned to how your inner body feels. So for me, it's very simple. It's just, is this a yes or is it a no? And I will do kind of an internal affirmation knowing. So I'll go, what is my yes? And I'll feel how my body feels with that word. And then I'll go, is it a no? And I'll feel what no feels like to me. And it could be anything. You could, your big toe could twitch. Like, we don't know what that is for you. That's your journey. That's your, determination. And then from there, I'll ask my question and I'll say it in a very specific way. I'll say, I am supposed to go to the park today. Right. And then I'll feel that yes feeling, or I'll feel the no feeling. And so then I'm saying the affirmation. So I'm not supposed to go to the park today. And I feel how that feels. And by the way, I'm doing this right now, and I think I need to go to the park today because my body is giving me a yes signal. Or it could be something to eat, or it could be, whatever. And sometimes we get nervous. We're like, ooh, I don't know if I want to check in on my body when I'm asking it if it needs chocolate cake, or if I'm to eat chocolate cake or not. And sometimes the body says yes. Sometimes the body surprises you, which is really kind of fun. But if you do it for things that don't matter, that you could take or leave, then when the big things come up, it'll become much clearer. Okay, the next piece is hormones that can heighten sensitivity. All right, so this is for somewhat for the ladies, but also for our gentlemen too, and anywhere in between, that we can kind of look at, because hormone fluctuations are, they're real, man. Like, they're real. Like, I cannot tell you. Some people have absolutely nothing happening for them during menopause and perimenopause and all that. They're like, oh, I'm good. It's something in their genetic makeup. It's something in their DNA. It's something that's already balanced in their hormones or was already imbalanced. And they've learned to live with that imbalance their whole life. And they didn't notice that it caused any issues. Some people never experienced it before because of, some kind of other things that were happening in their life and or for their body. So there's all of those kinds of things, or maybe an early hysterectomy, blah 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 blah. We got all that. For me, It has been a complete upside down upheaval, wild ride that has been very challenging. My whole life, my whole mind, my whole being, all of my chemical functions are different than they were before this process started. And I'm telling you that because you might need to hear it. So if you are experiencing lots of ups and downs chemically, you're not alone. You are totally loved in this process and nothing is wrong with you. Even if you've stopped having your cycle, baby, believe me, there's still chemical changes that are happening. So this is a great time for evaluating your identity and moving forward in a new way. I've never been a mom, so this part doesn't necessarily apply to me, but I do want to mention it. So in motherhood, hormones like oxytocin increase bonding and protectiveness. So the brain becomes highly attuned to the signals from the baby. So cry patterns, movement, facial cues, breathing patterns, different things like that you're keenly hooked into to make sure that you're keeping your baby safe, right? And then there's tons of hormonal connections, and that's where that mother's intuition comes from. And you're thinking to yourself, why do I know that my baby is not where that baby's supposed to be? Or you know what, I had a dream about my teenage daughter and she's in trouble, and then suddenly you get a phone call. Or you know what, I had this really weird thought, and then suddenly my daughter called me and we're talking about the exact same thing, or whatever it might be. My mother and I did that for a long time, and that all stopped right around the time that I turned around 30. And that has actually also been documented, that those protective hormonal connections actually go on for about 30 years. So from my own perspective, not from my own confirmation bias, but I have seen that for myself, that's not for everyone. So that's kind of an interesting tidbit there. And then in perimenopause and menopause, changes in dopamine, estrogen, serotonin, and I think 12 other brain and body chemicals and hormone chemicals, they all shift. Some become more, some become less. They alter the mood, the attention, and sensitivity to stress. Just the way it is. It's just the way it is. And it sucks because you feel different, and you are different than who you were. It doesn't mean you can't do things like relaxation, rebalancing, breathing, connecting with your girlfriends, talking to therapists, listening to things like podcasts like these that help just inform you about, you know, simple changes or adjustments to how we think about things and our mindsets and things like that. So they don't create intuition from nothing, but they can turn up the volume on emotional and sensory signals. So everything becomes really loud. At least that's how it's happened for me. My feelings are bigger, my thoughts are bigger, and the sensitivity is off the charts, whether it's sounds, whether it's um, it literally could be anything. It could be just a lot more overwhelming. And now that I have dropped a lot of the masks in my life or aspects of myself that would kind of come up so that I could be someone that would be more acceptable or that I thought could be more acceptable, now that those are dropping more and more, and I'm becoming just more and more of who I am and somebody I really like. I mean, I don't know if anybody else likes me, but I like me, and more so now than ever, that my intuition combined with all of those things is heightened because of that sensitivity. So it's not necessarily that, I'm psychic or more intuitive. I feel like some of the barriers to that intuition have been dropped. Simultaneously, because I've lived a longer life and have seen more things now and have been proven wrong in a number of ways and can look at my confirmation bias and know that it exists and study things like Course in Miracles that say, today I'll judge nothing that I see, and to go, I don't know what anything means. It makes it more challenging then, in a way, to um, express the intuition that I'm experiencing, because I don't know what people need. So then I reel back those insights or those thoughts or that wisdom that I believe that I think I know. You see, even that statement there is interesting, that I believe that I think I know, when 20 years ago I know that, right? That was it. I knew what they needed. And now I'm like, I don't know, maybe. My whole life is maybe at this point. But I think that there's a great deal of wisdom in that, is being able to say that. And I love saying that, because what it does for me is it says, I'm not on the hook for anything. I don't know what anything means or what anything's for. I don't know what this journey is going to be like for another person. I don't know that I need to be the one to tell the person the thing that changes their life forever. I don't know that they're not on a whole other trajectory that is intended just for them. And the only way that I do know that if it's something right for me to say or express is if they're asking for it, that they ask me specifically, what do you think? And I'll even ask another clarifying question at this point, because I've made enough of those mistakes with people. And some people aren't ready for the things that are being said. It doesn't matter. It's not like, oh, it's the end times or something like, not that. It could be just like a boyfriend girlfriend situation, or a should I leave this job situation, or whatever. And your intuition is coming up and it's saying, yeah, it's time to move on. And then they give you every excuse as to why they're not going to move on. And so, since I've experienced enough of that in my life, it's okay for me to hold back that intuitive nudge to say, well, what do you think? What do you think about that? How do you feel about it? Why don't you access your intuition, your guidance, your pattern recognition, your ability to check in with your gut and tell me what you think it might be? So that's one part of all of this. But the next part is where the mind tries to predict the future. Okay? And this really is connected to that pattern recognition piece. And what might happen next and how do I stay safe is really the question. What might happen next and how do I stay safe? So that intuition is forecasting based on past experience. So again, very connected to that pattern recognition. So this is where we see it show up. If someone reminds you of a person who hurt you before, your brain might signal caution. I saw that happen with someone not too long ago, and they said something like, oh no, he's giving me these ick vibes or something. And I was like, yeah, but he's not giving me the ick vibes. And I'm very keyed in on ick vibes. And I was like, who does he remind you of? Oh, he reminds me of this guy I dated in college. I'm like, okay, gotcha. So it's not actually him. It's just that perception that you have of him based off of your past. And then another one, it would be a situation that resembles something that ended badly. So your mind fills in the story, right? So it just says, I've seen this before. This is going to end badly. So that mindset then gets stuck in that. Now, if you've got this hormonal shift, you've got the pattern recognition, you've got your gut check, and then you have this this mental map that says the future is going to be this way based off of these different experiences, then it's kind of a recipe for you to create some things that you may not want. How do we create it? Okay, this is very, very simple. Because I know I can hear you now, just like I heard myself. Why would I create something negative? Why would I do that to myself? It's because it's a default programming process. It's safety. And it's also a way of, even if you prove yourself right, the brain considers that a win because at least you knew it ahead of time, right? So here it is. The way in which we create our reality is by focusing on the thing that we believe is going to happen. Here's a simple test. Right now, take a moment, look around your room, and count all of the red things. Just count all the red things. I'll pause for a second. And count how many there are. It's like 3 red things or 5 red things. If you can't find a red thing, find a pink thing. Now, tell me how many blue things are in the room. You can't, because you probably didn't count those. Your focus was so keenly associated with the red things that you didn't count the blue things because, one, you weren't asked to, right? And so you were focused on the other thing. The more we focus on something, the more it takes up our awareness. Another way to say that is, the more we focus on something, the more it expands. So if you think of that thing and you go, oh man, all I'm focused on is where I can find where the thing is going to happen. Like if you're paddling downstream, right? And you're in a canoe or a kayak or something, and all you see is a rock. And you're like, you keep looking at that rock and your head is pointed toward that rock, and all you see is that rock and that rock and that rock and that rock. And then you hit the rock. Of course you hit the rock because your body is turning to face that rock more and more. All right. So if you're instead going, I know the rock is there, but I'm not going that direction. I'm going away from that rock, and I'm going to keep focusing on the forward movement of the river. And I might, push away from that rock, or I might kind of like paddle in a direction, but my mind and my head and my body is focused in another direction. It's focused down the river. And so all of that focus then becomes that way. How does that happen in real life and day-to-day experience? Real life and everyday experience is, the problem is there. But you are so focused on the solution and the possibility that instead of looking only at the problem and the possibility of the problem, you are so in joy and enamored and excited about the possibility of the thing that has nothing to do with that problem at all. And if you give it a shot, not just once, not just twice, but consistently every single day, focusing on anything else other than that problem, focus on either the solution or focus on something else that makes you feel clear and connected and loved and balanced and whole, happy, and complete, that might have nothing to do with the problem at all. You're naturally going to be steering your mental state in the direction of better things. Now, here's the deal. I want to pay the mystical tax, okay? And the mystical tax is really, I say tax because that's why you came here. You wanted, well, yeah, okay, fine. You gave me 20 minutes, 25 minutes of all the brain function and all the body function, all the hormone function and all the la 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 la. I want to know, where is the universe? Where is spirit in all this? Where am I a witchy woman? Or where am I a goddess? Or where am I an angel in human form? Where is faith? Where is all of that? Well, we have thousands of years of ancient wisdom that points us in the direction of ourselves being more than our physical body, with tons of evidence to support that we are more than just our physical brain and bone and muscle and neurology. In fact, I love this analogy, which is, we can find the command center in our brain, the thing that, the hormones and the things and and the pattern recognition and all that kind of stuff. But we cannot pinpoint and find the commander in the command center. We don't know who's actually running this ship called the human experience. So we say it's consciousness. That at some point in our experience, the lights came on where we started to question and judge and determine and feel and become one with the experience that we were having. And then if we're really groovy, we're going to learn about these ancient wisdom tools and techniques. And we're going to learn that there are subtle connections through breath, through movement, through conscious connection to ideas like energy work, like wholeness, like balance, like reducing all those levels of stress, like releasing the trauma so that that's not the loudest thing in our mind, but instead that it's just simply a part of us and it's just a working component that we can essentially go, yes, that thing happened, but it doesn't dictate, who I am, because I'm much more than that, and I'm much more than the sum of my parts. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, and so in that context, then everything that the body, that the mind, that the hormones, that the sensitivity, that all of the things that have happened for us, we would say naturally to us or against us, but have happened for us in our experience, all of those things are actually cake. They are a part of our intuitive nature. And we came here to learn how to decipher. We came into these physical bodies, right? To learn how to decipher all of those interactions with our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual beingness, right? That's the mystical stuff. Because how on earth did we even get here, right? The most miraculous thing is the human body and being. Now, I'm not saying that from an egotistical standpoint. Of course, there's a light of consciousness in all living life, right? To a certain degree. So, in my opinion, I might test myself on that later, but it's interesting because we're all connected, I believe, and I think I've witnessed in a variety of different ways. We're all connected. And since we're all connected, I believe that there is an underlying consciousness to all things, right? So whether it's mystical, whether it's chemical, whether it's mental, I believe it's all one thing. At least for today. I might believe something different some other day. I might say maybe today, but from everything that I've experienced to this point, it seems to make a lot of sense to me. I would love to know what makes sense to you. And Whatever that is, it's perfect. Gratefully, we don't have to get it all right now. Right now, I think that the main thing that we do is find the best ways to find moments of peace, kindness, and love for ourselves, and therefore for other people in other situations. Till we talk again, I hope this has confused you, confounded you, and maybe even brought you a little bit of, that's interesting, to your mind. I will talk to you again soon. I hope you take care. Have a great day.